The following is a presentation on the UFSN network. Welcome to the UFAFL Nation.
Yes, greetings and salutations. It's Tuesday, so you know what that means. It's another episode of UFAFL Nation. I'm your host, Michael Skrzyniak. Week 6 in the NFL just wrapped up, capped off by Derrick Henry's amazing performance versus the Bills, leading the Titans to a much-needed victory. Can honestly say that was one of the best games I've seen from Derrick Henry, considering the opponent and all the injuries from the Titans, and we'll get into that a little bit later. For the show today, we're going to bring on Danny Jugan from Access Games, developer for the American Football Legends League, so we're really looking forward to that interview. And then we'll recap everything from the NFL this past week, as well as the UFAFL, including one big upset. We'll talk about that later on. Stock up and stock down. I'll give my best bets. I'm riding a little wave on the best bets, so I'm looking to make it, I think, 3 in a row now. So looking forward to talking about that. As you see on the screen here, this is where you can reach us. I'm on Twitter at MichaelSKRZ, so you can follow the league and UFAFL scouting. Headed up by Jamie Thomas. If you have any questions, you can email us there at info@UFFSports.com. And then the other website's there to check out the rest of the league as well. So, and then, let's get to this first. Sorry. Merchtober, guys, what's still going on. We're still looking to give away some prizes here. You guys know what to do. Send me the hashtag Skrizzy stat on Twitter and just post the stat that you see there on the bottom right corner. Now, I'm usually not a big fan of this particular stat when it comes to grading QBs, but I think that's a very interesting one because we'll talk about this team later. They're looking really good, especially in the AFC, and really looking forward to see what this player does going forward this year. He's definitely one of the MVP candidates to begin the season. So, yeah, guys, just remember, hashtag Skrizzy stat. Hit me up at MichaelSKRZ on Twitter for some cool UFAFL merch. Like, you got the tumbler there. You got the water bottle. You guys can put any of your logos on there. Just some cool swag coming up. Christmas time's coming just around the corner. Starting to get cold, especially here in Ontario. Today's actually pretty nice. It's about 20 degrees right now. But, yeah, some good, cool gift ideas and some cool swag. You guys can rep your squad. So, yeah, guys, remember, hashtag Skrizzy stat at MichaelSKRZ. Let's get this going. Let's pump up this store a little bit. It benefits us all. And, thanks for that. So, from there, might as well get to our interview, our big guest for this week. There he is, Danny Jugan. He is the president of Access Games at AccessLeague.com. He's the developer for the American Football Legends League. Danny, thank you for joining the show today. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, not a problem. So we had Andy McNamara on last week to kind of help start promoting the Legends League. But we wanted to bring you on because unlike Madden, like we know this is going to be like a video game type simulation, but we wanted to bring you on to get more specifics because like it's hard for me to explain to my buddies like, hey guys, like we're going to do a video game simulation that's not Madden for this Legends League. So do you think you can provide some more info about that?
Yeah, so Madden is the closest comparison. We certainly aren't there in terms of the graphics and animations, but we do offer 11-on-11 simulation style football with lots and lots of controls. And I know one of the things that's really cool that we offer and the way the league is going to be run is that it's going to be set up coach versus coach. So one of the main features of Access Football is its ability to customize, and we'll be playing on PC. So full mod support, import any kind of teams you want, change the rosters like crazy. And so that's where the NFL legends are going to come into play. But, coaches will be able to specify what kind of playbooks they want, and then they're actually going to go in and coach against somebody else. So they'll be calling the plays against another coach that'll be calling plays, but there's not going to be any sort of Twitch skills involved with regard to controlling players on the field. All the players are going to be controlled by AI, and all the coaches are going to have to do is pick the plays and coach. So there's going to be a lot of strategy that comes into play there, and it's going to be a really cool league to watch all the old NFL greats battle it out.
So I'm fascinated of the video game aspect behind this, and we're in an age right now in 2021 where like like esports, for example, has blown up like crazy. You talked about Twitch earlier and how profitable Twitch is right now. Just curious, like how did you get started with with your company, and like was like Madden a motivating factor for you? Like is this like, are you strictly like a sports guy that you're trying to incorporate with your website and your like in your platform here? Like how did you get started with Access Games, and then how did you get brought into the UFAFL?
Well, I have been making games in the industry for about 18, 19 years now. And I've made all kind of games, from adventure games to puzzle games to sports games. And it was, I think back in 2010, I made a flash game version of like a flag football game. And then from there, that's where Access Football developed. So it was, I originally started making football games way back in like the browser Flash era. And it was really popular. And when Flash kind of died and stopped being supported by browsers because all the security issues they had, I switched into using like 3D engines and that sort of thing. And that's where the Access Football as we see it today really started. So we're using the Unity engine for Access Football, and I started on that back in like 2013, 2014, and just slowly built on that year after year, releasing to Steam on PC and Xbox and PlayStation. And it's, I wouldn't say it was really related to Madden at all. For me, there's certainly a passion there for sports. I love football. I love the strategy, all the interactions with players, all the nuances. Um, but it wasn't. I didn't set out to compete with Madden or really to compete with anybody. I saw that there was a void in the market in the industry for simulation football. They're just Madden. That was it. And like I said, I wanted to create a very franchise heavy, customization heavy, simulation style American football game. And that's where it started. And like I said, we've grown and gotten significantly better over the years. We have awesome plans in the next few years to really add depth and animations and realism to the game. So that's our plan there. And then as far as how we got started with Andy and the Legends League, I think they were looking for a way to incorporate fantasy football for players that have retired. And obviously, they're not on the field anymore. So needed a way to see what it would be like to stack up against each other. And so that's where the video game aspect came into play. And so I guess he saw Access Football and what it offered, and it seemed to fit what they were looking for. And so it was a good partnership that got started there.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the platform looks and how these legends get incorporated. So I'm curious. I talked to Andy about this, and we talked about like, okay, well, if all these legends are going to be in this game, they're all going to be like maybe like your 99 overall ratings for Madden, for example. So like, where would you start your draft? So like, if I'm playing Blitz, for example, for Nintendo 64, I'm looking for the fastest guys usually. So like, if you're one of the general managers in this league, are you starting with like a Michael Vick type player, or are you going to go the road of like Tom Brady just because like he's the best quarterback? If this is going to incorporate their best stats, how would you kind of generally direct the structure of your team?
So I think that's what makes this so interesting. We've never seen a league like this where everybody is outstanding. And so that is what makes this so interesting and engaging, because nobody really knows where the best place to start is. Now, I have some insight in terms of, I mean, obviously, quarterback's going to be huge. It doesn't matter what aspect you're looking at. The quarterback is the most important position on the field. And so that's always a good place to start. Um, and then speed is a factor. Like, even if you look at the NFL at any point in history, if you are the fastest guy in the field, it doesn't matter how skilled you are, that's going to make a difference. And so quarterback's a good place to start. Wide receivers, but again, football is it's so multifaceted that you could have the best receiver in the world, but if the quarterback doesn't have time to throw the ball, what does it matter? If
Absolutely.
you've got Reggie White in there and Lawrence Taylor coming on the blind side, and he doesn't have but 2 seconds to throw the ball, it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is or how good your receivers are. And so it's very much going to be a little bit of a guessing game at the beginning as far as how teams should be built. And like I said, it's going to be fun to figure this out and watch it all unfold.
Definitely. Can't wait for that. Are you planning on expanding into any other sports? Like I know the NBA actually tips off tonight. The NHL has just started. Do you have any plans to incorporate any other sports into your website?
At the moment, no. We have our hands full and our future planned out specifically for football. Our
Okay.
game is good, but it's not where we want it to be. And I don't know if it'll ever be at that point where we're satisfied with it and be like, okay, we're done, we can move on. Um, the game offers really good simulation style football, but it lacks a little bit in the pretty visuals that you might see in Madden as far as, we don't have 300 catch animations and that sort of stuff. And that can be a mixed bag, but we really want to improve the visual integrity of what you're seeing on the field. Now, the players are going to do the right things. They're going to make good football choices, but we in the next few years at least, we're going to be focusing on improving the gameplay um, to make it look like football.
Well, man, it's a very exciting adventure. I know Andy and the boys have been pumping this thing real hard the last like month or so. Even after that, like it's gonna be a wild ride. I can't wait to see how this goes. Man, thank you so much for taking the time today. Like I know you're busy, obviously, with the platform and everything, but thanks for coming on the show, pumping this thing, and obviously, if you need anything from us to pump it up further on your side, just let us know. And yeah, Danny, thanks again for taking the time today.
Awesome. Thank you again for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks again, Danny, for joining the show. Really appreciate the insight into access, and can't wait to see how the simulation works. As you guys see on the screen here, Chris Carter franchise auction for the Legends League starts tomorrow, goes until Friday, sorry, and really looking forward to this. One of the coolest video game simulations that I've ever heard of. You can be able to coach the greatest NFL players of all time. So all guys who are retired are draft eligible. So you can't get Tom Brady yet, but you'll be able to get your Reggie Whites, your Lawrence Taylors. Danny brought them up. Your Jerry Rices might be a first-round pick in this league. That would not shock me whatsoever. Or maybe you want to go O-line to protect your quarterback because there's gonna be some really, really good defensive ends in this league, and you're gonna want to protect your quarterback. So maybe you go get like a Steve Hutchinson, for example. Plenty of guys available, guys, and I can't wait for this. So be ready to sign up because the auction's coming up real quick. This is going to be historical for the league, for us, and I can't wait to see how this all develops. And yeah, thank you, Andy and the boys. Andy's been pushing this all week. He's bugging my phone, trying to promote this. I'm very happy to help my boy here, and we're going to get this thing going. 16 captains, including Chris Carter, Michael Vick, some other guys in the league, and it's going to be super exciting. So yeah, guys, once again, this is where you guys can find us at Twitter. I'm at Michael Skriz. You got the UFAFL Twitter account there as well, and the Scouting Apartment. Thank you, Jamie Thomas, for putting in all that hard work. If you have any questions for us, you can email us there, info@uffsports.com, and the website to check out the rest of the league. Well, we might as well get into it now. Week 6 in the NFL in the books. Another fun week. We're going to start off with the Dallas Cowboys, who this stat surprised me. Win in New England for the first time since I was born, 1987. The Cowboys have now won 5 straight games. The Hydras, Dak Prescott, he's now the QB5 in league scoring. He tossed 445 yards, 3 touchdowns, including 2 to CeeDee Lamb, including the overtime winner. Cornerback, Trayvon Diggs, he might be the best contract in the UFAFL right now. He's got an interception every game to begin the season. He had a pick 6 on Mac Jones in this one. Cowboys are on boy this week. Coming up, we're going to call this Bye-mageddon because there's a lot of good teams with a lot of fantasy relevant players coming up, and Cowboys are one of them. So it should be interesting going forward. But the Cowboys look really good in the NFC. Like, aside from the Bucks and the Rams, I don't think there's many teams better right now on both sides of the ball than the Cowboys. I'm really shocked in how good the defense has played, and the offense we know is going to score points. So Cowboys fans, super excited. They're always annoying, but they should be super excited right now because the Cowboys, Dak Prescott and the boys, they're looking really, really good. The next game I wanted to talk about, I think probably the shocker of the week, even though the Ravens are a good team, but the Ravens defense just absolutely dominates the Chargers. They rushed the ball for 187 yards, and that potent Chargers offense just does absolutely nothing. 34-6 in the early games on Sunday. They always talk about how West Coast teams traveling to the East to play an early game, it usually messes with that West Coast team. I didn't think it was going to happen, especially with how the Chargers offenses looked. Like, Mike Williams has been unreal to start the year. Austin Eckler, I believe, was RB2 coming into the week. And Justin Herbert has been incredible, but he couldn't get anything going. The play calling was abysmal. They had a second, I think it was a 4th and 8 or a 4th and 9 from their own 20. And they obviously didn't capitalize, and then the Ravens just kicked the field goal after that. Chargers just look all of sorts. I think this is more of a blip on the radar than what the Chargers will look like going forward. But for the Ravens, like, they might be the best team in the AFC right now. Lamar Jackson, he didn't have his best game on paper, but he controlled everything, and they let the running backs do their thing on the Chargers. The defense is looking good. I watched that Colts game on the Monday night a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, okay, maybe the defense, like, they're making Michael Pittman look good, and Carson Wentz looks good. Jonathan Taylor had a ton of yards, but man, they're just winning games. Like, it doesn't always look pretty with the Ravens, but with the defense and the smash mouth running game, like, they're just in every game. And like we talked about off the top of the show, the Bills lose. KC doesn't look like the barn burner that we thought they were going to be. So maybe this is the Ravens' year. And there's not many guys aside from Lamar Jackson that you could pick as the early favorite for the MVP. Stick to the AFC North and the Browns. This is the other big one. Just getting pummeled by the undefeated Cardinals. I don't want to rag on the Browns too much, but Baker Mayfield left the game. Kareem Hunt left the game, and he's out for a number of weeks, probably 4 to 6 with the calf strain. Odell Beckham Jr. left the game. They were missing their 2 starting tackles. Just a disaster for the Browns all around. So they get smoked by the Cardinals. Kyler Murray, 4 touchdowns. They were up early. They didn't have to do much. James Conner came into the second half, a lot of garbage time, and just ran the ball. The Browns looked really good at 3-1, and now they're really banged up, and they're going to have a quick turnaround. They got to play the Broncos this upcoming Thursday. The Broncos are going to be pissed off. Like, they were 3-0. Now they've lost 3 in a row. So that's like, I'm just not sure about the Browns. I'm going to talk about them more later on. But if you're a Browns fan, sorry, Andy Mac, but this has been a real bad couple weeks coming off of what looked like one of the best teams in the AFC. So hopefully the Browns can get Nick Chubb back this week. He might be playing on Thursday. That'll help the offense. But if Baker's shoulder's messed up and he can't throw the ball down the field, Odell Beckham, they don't really have a really good number 2 like Donovan Peoples-Jones. Man, I'll talk about him later as well. But it just doesn't look good for the Browns in a really tight AFC. So let's move on to the UFAFL recap. And a couple of upsets. The first one I want to talk about, the Red Zone Dragons. They get double-digit points from three of their receivers, and they upset the Blitz for their second win of the season. For the Blitz, Sam Darnold, he's kind of fallen off since Christian McCaffrey got hurt a couple weeks back. Deebo Samuel, wide receiver for the 49ers, was on a bye. They actually got next to nothing from their other receivers. The Blitz can talk things over because they're on a bye week this upcoming week. Red Zone Dragons look to keep the momentum going against the division rival, the Surf Dogs, who are 1-5. The Circus Sports Trout remain undefeated as they defeat the Outcast. They get 35 points from 2 Patriots running backs. Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris both scored. They also got big performances from Antonio Brown on Thursday night and Jalen Waddle. They make work of the Outcasts. I feel like we talk about the Trout every week, but you can't blame us. So they're undefeated. They're 6-0, and they're going to go play the Rage next week. We're coming off a tough loss to the Hydra. But maybe the biggest headline, as when I checked out this morning, Blockchain Bounty Hunters pulled out the upset, and they handed the Seals the first loss of the season. O-line stats might be pending, but the Seals got a big performance from Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs to kind of bring the matchup closer together. But we'll see what happens. Donovan Peoples-Jones, we talked about him the last segment, gets 2 touchdowns, including a Hail Mary toss from Baker Mayfield to end the first half. What a ridiculous play that was, but hey, Bounty Hunters could use all the points they could. That was a wild one. I did not see the Seals losing this game. But now we're down to just 2 undefeated teams left, the Empire and the Trout. So another exciting week coming up in the UFAFL. Some more teams on bye, changes things up. But with Bye-mageddon coming up, so you got the Chargers, you got the Bills, you got the Jaguars, you got some really good teams that are going to be on bye this week. So this one should be interesting. One of the teams that's not on bye upcoming, they are going to lead my stock up, stock down segment, and that is the Indianapolis Colts. So early on in the season, we talked about how the Colts were kind of injured, especially their O-line, and Carson Wentz wasn't healthy either. We didn't know who was going to play quarterback. So we kind of had them in the stock down. But since then, they've turned things around, especially on offense. Jonathan Taylor, he's had 22.8 plus points over his last 3 weeks. He's been hitting some big plays. Against the Texans this past Sunday, he had next to nothing. And then all of a sudden, 83-yard run, which set up a touchdown that he punched in just a couple plays later. He also had that 74-yard screen pass touchdown against the Ravens a couple weeks back. So yeah, slow start, but now he's the RB5 in UFAFL scoring. T.Y. Hilton, number 1 wide receiver for the Colts, came back. 4 catches for 80 yards against Houston. That's not a surprise if you've been following T.Y. Hilton's career. His nickname is actually T.Y. Houston to Colts fans and Texans fans. He did leave the game, unfortunately, with a quad, but because the Colts were up so much against the Texans, they think it might be precautionary. So we'll see what happens with T.Y. Hilton. But then I look at the schedule for the Colts the next 4 games. They're at San Fran on Sunday night, which will be a pretty good game, but you're not really scared about the San Fran defense. They don't even know who's going to play quarterback. So I would not shock me if the Colts win that game. And then you go against the Titans, who defense you're not scared of. And then it's the Jets and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if you have Colts in your home league, if you have a Michael Pittman, hell, if you got Carson Wentz with all these QBs on bye this upcoming week, you could probably throw Carson Wentz in against San Fran. Would not hate that. Mo Alley Cox, a tight end, he's catching touchdowns as well. So stock up for the Colts. Stock down, unfortunately, Andy Mack, the Browns. With all these injuries, how can you really trust the Browns going forward? Are you going to be spending a lot of fab on Dearness Johnson, the backup, the third string running back for this squad? I don't really know, especially if they have 2 tackles hurt. Baker Mayfield, how is he going to perform with a short week and this left shoulder injury? Odell Beckham, same thing, shoulder injury for him too. With this close week coming up, it's hard for me to play anybody on the Browns except for maybe Nick Chubb if he's healthy. You're going to have to play Nick Chubb if he's there. But aside from that, I don't really feel comfortable. That quick turnaround, and then you get Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and New England. The Browns are in for some tough games. They're just not looking in sync right now. So in your home leagues, there's not many Browns that I would recommend you playing. And that moves us to our best bet segment. The heat wave made me look better than Chase Claypool did last week in one of my stock up segments. So the heat wave were able to cover the 18.4 point spread against the Ghost Riders. I've been riding the favorites the last couple weeks, but I think it's time to change that around. I looked this morning, and the Silverbacks were 113.1 point favorites to cover versus the Rowdies. That's a big spread for, no offense, but do you think the Rowdies are one of the top tier teams in this league? Personally, I don't think so. I'm not sure Teddy Bridgewater will have 35 points against Cleveland's stingy defense this Thursday. I also don't think Adam Thielen will put up close to 30 points again for the Rowdies. So The Silverbacks, they get Tua back. Tua Tagovailoa, the Dolphins quarterback. He obviously didn't have him for the last couple of weeks, but the thing about the Dolphins is like their offense is pretty bad and the defense is worse. I feel like Tua's just going to be throwing the ball nonstop, and I think with his rushing ability as well, he's going to get some cheap fantasy points. Garbage time sometimes is the name of the game in fantasy, and the Dolphins right now just scream garbage time. So I just really like this bet, especially with Myles Garrett and Isaiah Simmons working for the Silverbacks. I just think, guys, that's just a smart bet. Rowdies might win, don't get me wrong, but I just, that 119.1 is kind of ridiculous at this point of the season, despite Bye-mageddon. Well, before we wrap up the show, we want to pump up Merchtober once again, guys. Hit me up on Twitter, at MichaelSKRZ, with the stat, with the hashtag Skrizzy stat. You can see it there in the bottom right corner. We talked about him in the NFL recap. It's been a good ride for the Ravens right now. So just let me know, guys. There's some really cool swag on the UFF Sports website. Some UFAFL cool merch. Like, you got T-shirts. We're showing you guys the water bottle and the tumbler right now. But you can get your logo and a bunch of cool things on the website. Don't be afraid to check that out. You got the link right there. Yeah, this helps out all of us, guys. Like I said before at the top of the show, Christmas time's coming around the corner. It's getting cold, so if you want to pour your hot coffee in that tumbler to go on your walks, by all means, there's some really cool stuff there. So, guys, just don't be afraid. Hit me up on Twitter while trying to get this thing going as furiously as possible, because there's a lot of guys working to get this shop going behind the scenes. So, yeah, let's just help out all the boys here. We're all a family here at the UFAFL Nation. And once again, before we let you go, guys, the franchise auction for the Legends League starts tomorrow. Chris Carter, Michael Vick, 16 other captains, part of this league. Really looking forward to this. We had Danny Jugan on earlier, the president of Access Games, to talk about the simulation. This is going to be one of the coolest things that I've seen in a while. If you guys have watched, like, they've had the Madden League on ESPN. I've seen it on TSN here in Canada a bunch, and you see how much fun that is. You see how much esports is blowing up, and like the Twitch community. Like, this is just one of those things where I can just see this is going to be what, like, we're on the ground floor of something like special with this Legends League. And I'm really cool to, like, it's going to be really cool to see how AccessLeague.com and the boys over at Access Games put this all together with like the biggest names in football. Andy, he still wants a photographer, I think, to come with him to Ohio while he's promoting this thing. So hit up Andy on Twitter or through Telegram. He's always willing to chat about the Legends League. So if you have any more questions, go to him. We'll tweet out as many details as we can as well. I know Andy will, and the boys over at UFF Sports. So, guys, thank you once again for tuning in. Week 7, Bye-mageddon. It's going to be a struggle for a lot of us searching the waiver wire for backup QBs and running backs, especially with all these injuries. But we'll get through it, and we'll chat about this again next Tuesday. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.